Have you ever stood in a supermarket aisle for 10 minutes, staring at dozens of different kinds of cereal, and felt completely paralyzed? You think you're free, you're in a world of endless options, but somehow, instead of excitement, there's anxiety. You pick one box, but then immediately wonder if it's the best choice. That tiny, mundane decision leaves you stressed. Now imagine that same feeling amplified across every part of your life: career, relationships, investments, hobbies. That's the paradox of choice. The more freedom we have, the less satisfied we feel. It sounds counterintuitive, but as philosopher Thucydides said, the secret to happiness is freedom, and the secret to freedom is courage. And yet, modern psychology tells us that too much freedom can actually make us miserable. Barry Schwartz, in his groundbreaking book, The Paradox of Choice, explores this phenomenon. He explains that humans don't just struggle to make decisions, they suffer from them. Every option comes with potential regret. Did I pick the right career path, the right partner, the right phone plan, the right meal? The more options, the more we ruminate, the more we compare, and the more likely we are to feel dissatisfied. Neuroscience calls this decision fatigue. Every choice consumes mental energy. By the end of the day, even small decisions, what to eat, what to wear, feel exhausting. Ancient wisdom understood this long before modern psychology. Aristotle, in Nicomachean ethics, argued that happiness comes not from endless freedom, but from cultivating virtue and living deliberately. Stoic philosophers emphasized voluntary limits. They practiced restraint in wealth, desires, and even daily routines to create mental clarity and emotional freedom. Buddhism, too, teaches contentment, not through endless indulgence, but by appreciating what we have and letting go of craving. Across centuries and continents, the message is surprisingly consistent. Unlimited freedom is seductive, but it can enslave the mind. Here's a metaphor I find incredibly helpful. Imagine your mind as a garden. Each choice is a seed. With too many seeds, too much clutter, you can't see the soil. You can't nurture anything fully. Plants compete for sunlight, nutrients, and space, and some inevitably wither. But if you limit the number of seeds, if you focus on a few carefully selected plants, you can cultivate them deeply. The garden thrives. The same goes for decisions. The more selective and intentional you are, the more your mental and emotional resources can flourish. Let me share a real-life example. A friend of mine, a talented software developer, was constantly stressed about opportunities, job offers, freelance projects, even simple purchases. He treated each decision like a major life-altering event. He was exhausted. Then he read about Schwartz's research and tried a practical experiment. He limited his daily choices. He wore the same style of clothes, ate similar breakfasts, and set rules for evaluating career options, choosing only based on two criteria: alignment with his values and potential for learning. Within weeks, he reported feeling lighter, less anxious, and more focused. By intentionally constraining options, he regained the very freedom he thought unlimited choice had given him. So how can you apply this in your own life? Here are 3 practical steps. First, simplify deliberately. Identify areas where too many options are draining you. It could be your wardrobe, your social media feed, or your daily routines. Reduce choices to essentials. Automate what can be automated. Set boundaries. For instance, pick a weekly meal plan. Standardize your morning routine, or decide in advance which projects merit attention. Fewer options free your mind to focus on what matters most. Second, embrace voluntary limits. Ancient Stoics and Aristotle both understood that limiting yourself is a form of freedom. Choose a personal rule or restriction that serves a higher purpose. One social media-free day per week, a monthly budget cap, or a commitment to a single creative project at a time. These voluntary constraints reduce mental clutter and help you focus on meaningful goals instead of trivial alternatives. Third, cultivate contentment and gratitude. Buddhist practice teaches appreciation for what is, rather than longing for what isn't. Each day, take a few minutes to reflect on what you already have, what's enough, and what is truly valuable. This mindset reduces the urge to endlessly compare, which is one of the main drivers of regret and dissatisfaction in a world of endless options. The neuroscience behind these strategies is compelling. When you reduce choice overload, your brain conserves cognitive energy and reduces stress hormones like cortisol. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and self-control, can function more efficiently. You make better choices, feel less regret, and your overall sense of well-being improves. In other words, by limiting options thoughtfully, you actually increase your freedom. The freedom to act without being trapped in indecision. Even successful people understand this intuitively. Many high performers deliberately limit choices in non-critical areas. Mark Zuckerberg wears essentially the same outfit every day. Steve Jobs favored a uniform of black turtlenecks and jeans, and Warren Buffett has famously kept his daily routines simple to avoid wasting mental energy on trivial decisions. These practices are modern confirmations of an ancient truth. When your mind is uncluttered, it can focus on what truly matters. The paradox of choice isn't about rejecting freedom. It's about mastering it. Freedom without guidance is chaos. Too many options can leave you paralyzed, anxious, and dissatisfied. But when you set boundaries, simplify decisions, and focus on what is essential, freedom becomes empowering. Happiness emerges not from having everything, but from having clarity, focus, and intentionality. By combining the insights of modern psychology with ancient wisdom, from Aristotle's ethical framework to Stoic discipline and Buddhist contentment, you gain a toolkit to navigate today's overwhelming world. You can reclaim satisfaction, make better decisions, and experience the liberation that comes from purposeful limits. Ancient philosophers understood this long before modern research confirmed it. Aristotle taught that living well requires deliberate choice, guided by virtue, not endless chasing after what might seem good. Stoics practiced restraint to clear the mind for meaningful action. Buddhist teachings encourage contentment with what is, rather than endless longing for what isn't. Across time and culture, the message is consistent. Intentional limits create real freedom. Practical freedom doesn't mean rejecting choice. It means using it wisely. Simplify where you can. Set boundaries that protect your energy. Focus on the essentials that align with your values. When you do, decision fatigue diminishes, satisfaction rises, and happiness becomes less dependent on external circumstances. In other words, less can truly be more. Imagine a life where each decision is made with clarity instead of anxiety, where the mind is uncluttered and you can direct your energy toward what matters most. That's the freedom the Stoics, Aristotle, Buddhist sages, and modern psychologists all point to. It isn't about having everything. It's about having enough and knowing what to choose with courage, intention, and focus. By embracing limits, cultivating contentment, and acting intentionally, you turn the paradox of choice into a path toward peace, clarity, and genuine satisfaction.